Saying the Spider-Verse films are great is one of the coldest takes I can think of. It's like saying water is wet, or they don't make music like they used to, or that Maestro is Oscar bait, you know, stuff we all agree on. Now, I'm not gonna explain every little intricacy that this picture gets right, because frankly, it's been done a million times already. We all know how innovative and gorgeous the animation is, the genius use of leitmotif and genre switching in the score, and the beautifully distinct characterization of every spider person. So today, I'd like to instead focus on a writing technique that this film also excels in using, that no one on the internet has ever talked about. Setups and oh, come on. As their titles imply, setups and payoffs are the process of planting story beats early on that will reappear later with evolved meaning. These both give cohesion to narrative beats and are opportunities to integrate character development if done right. To make sure we're all on the same page, let's cover a couple examples. In Good Will Hunting, when Sean is telling Will about how he met his wife, he uses the iconic line,
"Sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl."
Then by the end of the film, Will's goodbye note reuses that same line. Or how about surprise banger Puss in Boots 2? In Puss's first encounter with death, he gets humiliated with his disarmed weapon being kicked towards him and the three condescending words that are,
"Pick it up."
Then in their final duel, Puss throws Death's words back.
"Pick it up."
If that's not my favorite fearless hero, I don't know who is. Spider-Verse is filled to the brim with stuff like this. Pretty much every major character or relationship benefits from at least one setup and payoff, and they're all integrated so organically. Now, there are a few ways Spider-Verse goes about this, the first of which being the humor approach. Take the shoulder touch, for example. At first, it's just this goofy piece of advice from Miles' uncle, but then it becomes his final response to Kingpin. On the surface level, it's just a good laugh, because who's expecting him to whip out Aaron's secret technique in such a dire moment? But it's also thematically appropriate. Both Miles and Kingpin have lost family. The difference is in how they handle their grief. Kingpin obsesses over finding the surrogate family to remedy the past, whereas Miles has come to terms with the passing of Aaron. He no longer mourns his loss, but celebrates his existence. So by having this grand clash of their differing ideologies end on such a jovial note, cements the film's sub-message immaculately and poetically.
Hey.
Like I mentioned before, Spider-Verse writes in setups and payoffs like these for all of Miles' most integral relationships. For Gwen, it's the Einstein line.
You're late again.
Einstein said time was relative, right? Maybe I'm not late. Maybe you guys are early.
Sorry, it was just so quiet.
At first she laughs because no one else did, but by the end she laughs because she's finally vulnerable enough to allow herself to have a friend again.
You know I'm older than you. 15 months, but it's pretty significant if you ask me.
Well, Einstein said time was relative, right?
Dude, I wish I was that slick. Then with Mr. Peter B. Parker, you've got Watch the Hands, drawing a through line between the first and last act.
Here's lesson number 1, kid. Don't watch the mouth. Watch the hands.
Guys, I got it.
I'll go. I'm the one with the goop. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Don't watch the mouth. Watch the hands.
It's the student becoming the master, but it hits even harder because Peter never wanted to become a mentor. So seeing him overcome that phobia and at the end of the day succeed in training Miles is immensely satisfying for the audience. In fact, the relationship between Peter and Miles is so good that they have multiple setups and payoffs between them, a lot of which go down the more dramatic route. The main theme the relationship focuses on is not being afraid of failure, gaining the courage to take that leap of faith. Sure, it might backfire, but you'll never know if you don't give yourself that chance. Miles is terrified of his huge responsibility of shutting down the reactor, and we see that conveyed through his incompetence in using his powers.
This kid can turn himself invisible. Watch this. He can do it now.
I can't do it on command.
He can't do it on command, but it is cool.
And Peter is terrified of repairing his marriage, because what if he just makes things worse?
What about MJ?
Not everything works out, kid.
By using setup and payoff, the writers subliminally convey the process of them teaching each other to confront their fears, without beating you over the head with these artificial sentiments of gratitude. Instead, it's done through everyone's 3 favorite words.
It's a leap of faith. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
How do I know I'm not gonna mess it up again?
And you won't.
Right. Hate to leap the faith.
The dialogue is lean and concise. It says not a word more than it needs to say and lets the subtext do the rest of the work. Any more would feel bloated and immersion breaking. And if that wasn't brilliant enough, these scenes double down on that relationship development with visual symbolism. That's right, we're making my 9th grade English teacher proud today with some showing, not telling, because the spider trip is so clever. In Act 2, Peter uses it on Miles as the test to see if he's ready to send them home. Then by Act 3, Miles replicates the move indistinguishably to send him home. This moment is all about Peter needing to learn his own lesson, and what better way to establish that than the student using the mentor's lesson to get his point across. Again, it's like poetry, so they rhyme. So up until now, we've had the goofy setup to goofy payoff, the dramatic setup to dramatic payoff, but who says you can't combine the two? What if you were to set up with a joke and then bring that moment back for a poignant payoff when it matters most? What would that look like? Well, this next example not only aligns with this concept, but is the reason I'm making this video. The I love you dad setup and payoff is so ingenious that it makes me jealous. It masterfully plants the seeds via a moment that disguises itself as a mere joke and then brings it back for an emotional gut punch when you never see it coming. Very early on, we have this goofy sequence of Miles' dad demanding he says I love you back as he drops him off at school.
You gotta say I love you back.
Dad, are you serious?
I wanna hear it.
You want to hear me
I
say
love
it?
you, Dad.
You're dropping me off out of
I
school?
love you, Dad.
Look at this place.
Dad, I love you.
It's super silly and is just filled with trailer joke energy. In fact, I just checked and it literally is the big haha funny right before the release date shows. Seriously, why is every movie trailer edited by the same person? My point is, humor can be a great way to make your setups invisible. If the audience can see you pulling the strings from behind the scenes, it ruins both the immersion and the surprise. Example, Love Hard. In the Uber ride scene, we're informed that Natalie has a kiwi allergy.
You want some papaya? Kiwi?
No kiwi. I would swell up like a blowfish.
This is a setup for a joke later where she has an allergic reaction. Very funny. But it's introduced so arbitrarily that it's impossible not to see it coming. It's the same case in Wonka with Noodle's ring. When we're told this heirloom is the last thing she has from her parents, we instantly know there's going to be a familial twist down the line where another character has one just like it. You guys know how much I love foreshadowing, but just because it exists doesn't mean it's good. On the contrary, every joke setup in Spider-Verse is done so with the priority of characterizing personality. So when we witness this banter, it's integrated so naturally that we don't anticipate its reuse. And when the rug finally is pulled, the payoff reaches its full potential effectiveness. As Miles is left tied up in his room, his state of woe is interrupted by a knock at the door from his dad. This scene first ensures its preface with a poignant reminder as to the status of their relationship.
Look, sometimes people drift apart, Miles. And I don't want that to happen to us, okay?
They've drifted apart, and Aaron's death was a brutal wake-up call as to how much jeopardy their relationship is in.
I see this spark in you. It's amazing. It's why I push you, but it's yours. Whatever you choose to do with it, you'll be great.
He takes a moment just to tell Miles how much pride he has in him. It's a much-needed break from the constant critique and pressure he's always placed on his son, because sometimes we just need to hear those words of affirmation for our peace of mind. Out of fear of unintentionally falling into lecture again, Jeff is quick to end his monologue, choosing the best final words he could have.
I love you. You don't have to say it back, though.
This payoff excels in every criteria we've discussed. The setup is invisible, it's a reused line with entirely evolved meaning, and it showcases character development via subtext alone. Because of this callback, we know Jeff has learned from his mistakes and is now giving Miles the infinite support and temporary space he needs. He gives his son the necessary reassurance without being overbearing, and lets Miles come back to him at his own pace. Miles will say I love you back when he's ready and means it most, which we see him do in the following action.
Thank you for your bravery tonight. I love you.
Wait, what?
Every time I rewatch this movie, it's a reminder of how crucial setups and payoffs are in every story. not just the mystery genre. They make every plotline feel that much more purposeful and fleshed out, while delivering key themes in a way that respects the audience's intelligence. Contrived plots drive me insane because there is nothing impressive about doing something for the sole sake of subversion. Remember Me has one of the most disappointing endings I can think of. Not because it's sad, there are plenty of excellent tragic twists out there, but because it's as lazy as it gets. You could tack this on to the finale of any story without any setup whatsoever. Compare this to Spider-Verse, where the ending monologue has been set up multiple times via the comic book intros. Since every Spider-Person we've met has had these vibrant recaps of their lives as heroes, when Miles finally gets his own, it feels like a celebratory and justified induction into the Spider family.
My name is Miles Morales. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for like 2 days, I've been the one and only Spider-Man.
Now, not a lot of people know this, but this movie recently got a sequel. And what do you know, it's also really darn good and really darn dense. And since Across the Spider-Verse is part one of a two-part tale, we get this unique privilege of marinating on the setups for a few years before the payoffs reveal themselves. So here are a few moments I hope to see reimagined in the final installment of the trilogy. I believe we are going to hear "My name is Miles Morales" at least one more time.
Okay, let's do this one last time. My name is Miles Morales.
The "just keep going" line will be used during the resolution between Miles and his Prowler self.
You're on your way. Just keep going.
If Jeff does end up dying, then his final words will have something to do with Miles spreading his wings.
I say, you gotta let him spread his wings, man.
We are gonna hear Gwen say there's a first time for everything when she and Miles make amends.
Well, it's the first time for everything, right?
Miles will squeeze Mayday eventually.
Would you just give the baby one squeeze and then we'll talk, because I think it's going to change our bond. It's very rejuvenating!
And it would be pretty cool to hear Miguel say we're supposed to be the good guys, though that might be a little bit of a stretch.
We are supposed to be the good guys.
But hey, that's just a theory. I could very well miss every single one and look like a total fool in a few years' time, but if I get even one right, I get to say I told you so. So now that I've locked in my predictions, feel free to lock in yours in the comments below. Or just share anything you feel I missed in the first film, because I definitely didn't cover everything. With that being said, let me just thank you for sticking around to the end and wish you a fantastic day. Take care.